There's a variety of age groups of people living in vans on Parrys Lane. Most of them are transitory and only stay for 3 or 4 nights at a time. Some come here because they're working in Bristol and it's a cheap place to stay. Other people stay here because it's convenient and they'll spend a lot of time travelling about, working at festivals or... Interestingly, in Parrys Lane, there's a high percentage of van dwellers that are pensioners who live here because they feel it's safe and they get support from the other people living in the vans. Today we're going to meet some of those pensioners and tell you their stories. Good morning, Ian. Thanks very much for talking to us. What did you do before you lived in a camper van?
Yes, I was a TV cameraman and VTR editor and music video producer. I'm now 70 years of age and retired. I always fancied actually getting hold of a caravan or a motorhome and actually doing some travelling when I retired, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. Unfortunately, because of the COVID restrictions, the lockdowns we've had this year, this has been quite impossible to do because many of the campsites were shut and events were closed. So basically I was stuck here from time to time throughout the year.
And do you have health issues?
I have to be here a few times in the year for regular treatment for an ongoing health condition, which is at Bristol Southmead Hospital. So I basically just have to be here for that.
How do you find the people and environment of Parrys Lane?
Parrys Lane is ideal because basically you're not parked outside anybody's houses. It's quite wide enough as well for to park on, and as there are other van dwellers here, it's quite safe and helpful and quite friendly, of all different ages. Yep, so it's quite nice and fairly ideal, really.
Okay, well, thanks very much for talking to us. Good morning, George. What was your career before you decided to take up campervan life?
I was a publican for 33 years, running pubs, restaurants and hotels, and unfortunately, due to illness, I had to give it up, and which left me without a home and no income, and not well enough to do a job like that.
So, and why did you decide to live in a campervan?
I had about, well, not a lot of money, but a few bob, and if I'd spent it on living in flats, it would have probably lasted me about a year. But this is my 4th year now in the van, and I've still got it and it's paid for, and this is the only way I can live.
And did you travel very much in the campervan?
Yeah, I spent the first 6 months going, I went around Italy and down to Sicily to see relatives, and yeah, I travelled around England, but at the moment this is where I am.
So why did you decide to live on Parrys? What is it about Parrys that you like?
It's near where my doctor is, which I have to go to on a regular basis, so I can't go very far anyway. Yeah. Well, it was a place that I could park where I'm not in front of people's houses, which I'm very much against when people park in streets, you know, where people pay lots of money for their houses. They don't want, you know, us parked outside. This is an area of wide open space and not in anybody's direct view of their home, so it was the obvious place for me to come.
And how do you find the community on Parrys Lane?
Along of all the people that park along, extremely helpful. Yeah, extremely helpful. There's always somebody, if you've got a problem, there's always somebody that can solve it. Yeah.
Well, George, thanks very much for talking to us. It's much appreciated. Good morning, Cameron. What was your previous career before you ventured into campervan life?
Well, that's a long story. To cut it short, when I was 23, I first started my first company, which was a promotions company. We launched with Ford products like the Escort, or maybe the car you might remember, if you're young enough, old enough, whichever way around it is. the Ford Capri, the car you always promise yourself. Exciting times. Had a company in Brussels and a company in the UK. After that, I decided to open a company in electronics, and we designed the world's first TV game that plugged into the back of your TV set in 1974, VideoMaster. Again, that's the first time I worked with China and Hong Kong. There, the border was non-existent. There was no bridge. It was very early days in China. They still had the restaurants with the food outside alive. After that, I went farming in France for 5 years, a break in my natural life. And after that, I was called by Sega to open up their Sega operations in France, which I did. Very interesting and exciting times again, the resurgence of the video games. All the time I was working with China and traveling around the world. After that, I started a company called Digital Dream, and we produced the world's first camera under £99, digital camera. And we also produced a little product called the Espion, which became the biggest selling product in Christmas. Beat all the other Japanese companies to the post.
And why did you decide to live in a camper van?
Well, when I retired at probably about 68, 69, I decided I really didn't want to stay in the same place and look at the same faces all the time. I wanted to see the ground from out of the ground up from a camper van, because all the time before I'd spent my time in hotels, airplanes. You don't see people other than the people that are travelling. You don't touch the community. So for 5-6 years with my wife, we travelled from Denmark all the way down through Greece, through Central Europe, and spent a lot of time seeing all the places we wanted to see. Great time. Really recommend it. You get in touch with people, and you feel the people as opposed to just the country. And so when I decided to go and stay with my son, who lives in Bristol, on the camper van, I came up to Bristol and found this site just by accident. It was very fortunate indeed, because there's a great community spirit going on here. I was hospitalised one time, and the guy in the camper van behind me actually got the ambulance and got me to the hospital. So I don't know how I would have done if I hadn't been in this little community, because they really care for each other and look after each other. And some of us are old. I'm 79, and some of them are pushing up towards my age as well. So we need a bit of support, and we need a good community feeling, which we have got. And we feel very responsible for the area we live in. We take care of it, we clean it, and we are user-friendly. Yeah. Hospital is very important to me, because I have prostate cancer, which is in remission, hopefully, but I've also got this unknown thing called Parkinson's, which creeps around the corner. And it doesn't make for living alone and in isolation a great choice. So for me, I need this community. I really need this community. It makes all the difference to me in my mental state of feeling relaxed and surrounded by people who care.
If it became impossible to live on Parrys Lane, where would you live?
I really don't know. I certainly don't want a street park. I don't want to be an inconvenience to people outside their house. I think that's the wrong thing to do. I don't think you should park near people's houses. Here we're out in the open, we're not disturbing anybody. So I don't know the answer to that, Dave. Really don't. I mean, I'm dependent on Southmead Hospital for all the treatment I get. So the answer, I've got to stay in the area one way or another. But I don't want to be lumped in with a lot of other people I don't know. I want to be with the people who really care.
And would rental accommodation suit you, do you think?
Rented accommodation? Well, I think that would be a challenge, because I can't walk very easily because of the Parkinson's apparently. And I have my dog, who's been faithful with me for 11 years, and I'm certainly not going to get rid of her. So rented accommodation for me, ground floor, dog, parking the motorhome, I think that's a tough call. And anyway, I don't really want to live in rented accommodation, because again you get cut off. I mean, I see all these clips from people in the COVID who are living in houses and flats, and of course they're much more cut off than we are in the motorhomes. We speak to each other daily, and as I say, I'm not sure that I want to be found dead in the flat after 3 days of mouldering away. I want to be found dead the next morning by my friends in the motorhome who get me to the nearest mortuary. Sounds a bit morbid, but it's not, it's practical.
Okay, well, thanks very much for talking to us, Karen. It's much appreciated. Recently, there's been a lot more people staying on Parrys Lane because of the pandemic. Campsites are closed, so people have been unable to travel. This has increased tensions in the local community because of the number of vans. We're told that the number of vans means that there could be antisocial behaviour. Could be antisocial behaviour, but there isn't antisocial behaviour. Parrys Lane is a stable, caring community.